Chimpanzee can rip your arm off without breaking a sweat. A gorilla has the bite force to crush a bowling ball. And you. Right now, you're using 20% of your energy just to understand these words. Your brain is burning calories faster than your heart, faster than your legs, faster than any muscle in your body, for an organ that does nothing but think. That shouldn't be possible. In nature, every calorie is a war. Predators can't afford to waste energy. Prey can't afford to slow down. Yet somehow, humans evolved an organ so expensive that by all logic, we should have starved before we ever left Africa. Instead, we're the only species that ever figured out how to leave the planet. Something happened between then and now, something that rewrote the rules of what a body could be, and the answer is hiding in plain sight in something you'll do at least 3 times today without thinking about it. Here's what keeps evolutionary biologists awake at night. 6 million years ago, humans and chimpanzees split from a common ancestor. For 4 million years after that, early humans were unremarkable. Slightly different skull shape, slightly different teeth. Nothing special. Then around 2 million years ago, something changed, and it happened fast. The fossil record shows human brain size tripling in less than 1 million years. Evolutionary lightning speed. But here's the part that breaks the rules. While brains were exploding in size, the rest of the body was shrinking. Teeth got smaller, jaws became weaker. The digestive tract, the entire gut from stomach to intestines, shrank by more than half. Paleontologists call this the expensive tissue hypothesis. As brains grew, guts diminished. In biology, that trade-off doesn't happen by accident. Brains and guts are both metabolically expensive. When one expands, something else has to pay the price. But that creates an impossible equation. Early humans like Homo habilis were eating the same foods as their ancestors. Raw tubers, raw fruit, raw meat scavenged from kills. These are low-calorie foods that require enormous digestive systems to process. Modern chimpanzees, our closest relatives, spend 6 hours a day chewing. Their massive jaws and huge molars work constantly just to extract enough energy to survive. Now imagine trying to power a brain 3 times larger on that same diet. The energy isn't there. So where did it come from? The first explanation seems obvious. Humans got smarter, made tools, hunted more efficiently, more meat, more protein, bigger brains. It's logical, until you do the math. Your brain right now consumes roughly 400 calories a day, 1/5 of your total energy budget for an organ that's 2% of your body weight. For a newborn human infant, it's even more extreme. The developing brain uses 60% of the baby's metabolic resources. No other animal on Earth pays this cost. A chimpanzee brain uses about 8% of daily energy. A dog's brain, around 5%. Humans are a spectacular outlier. And evolution doesn't work on credit. You can't evolve an expensive organ and hope to find food later. The energy has to exist first. But early Homo erectus, the first human species with a significantly larger brain, was still eating basically raw food. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham spent years studying this paradox. He calculated the time it would take to chew enough raw food to power a large brain. The answer: there aren't enough hours in the day. Modern humans on raw food diets, even when eating as much as they want, lose significant weight. Their bodies can't extract sufficient calories, so something had to unlock the energy before the brain could grow. Not intelligence, not tools. Something simpler, something no other animal has ever figured out how to control. Imagine East Africa, 1.8 million years ago. A young Homo erectus, not quite us, not quite ape, walks through a burned section of savanna. Lightning struck 2 days ago. The grass is ash. The air still smells like smoke. Then she sees it, a warthog carcass, burned, partially cooked by the wildfire. Every instinct says, eat it, now, before something else does. But something stops her. The meat is different, softer. It tears apart easier. It doesn't fight her teeth the way raw flesh does. She eats. And for the first time in her life, she isn't hungry an hour later. This moment, or something like it, may have happened thousands of times before anyone understood why it mattered. Because cooked food isn't just easier to eat. It's a thermodynamic hack. When you apply heat to food, you're using external energy to break down proteins, rupture cell walls, and denature enzymes. You're outsourcing digestion. A raw potato is mostly indigestible starch. Your body extracts almost nothing from it. Cook that same potato and 90% of its calories suddenly become available. But here's what Wrangham discovered. It's not just about getting more calories in. It's about spending fewer calories on digestion. Raw meat requires powerful jaws, massive molars, and a gut that churns for hours. That digestive process burns energy. Cooked meat, your body barely has to work. The trade-off appears in our anatomy. When cooked food made digestion cheaper, guts could shrink. They didn't need to be as large or as long, and every calorie saved on digestion could be redirected somewhere else. To the brain. The fossil record shows this shift exactly. Around 1.9 million years ago, evidence of controlled fire begins appearing at sites like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa and Kubifora in Kenya. At the same time, Homo erectus fossils show smaller teeth, weaker jaws, reduced gut size, and rapidly increasing cranial capacity. But controlling fire requires something that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature: delayed gratification. You have to take food that's edible right now and decide not to eat it. You have to maintain a fire. You have to wait. No other animal does this. Wolves don't wait. Dolphins don't wait. Even crows, among the most intelligent animals alive, consume food immediately. Only humans will stare at perfectly good food and choose to burn it first, which means fire didn't just change our bodies. It changed what it means to think. But mastering fire created problems our ancestors never anticipated. Once you have cooked food, you have something worth stealing. Raw tubers spoil quickly and provide minimal energy. Not worth fighting over. Cooked food is different. It's a concentrated package of calories, portable, valuable, worth killing for. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies notice something unusual. In cultures that rely heavily on cooking, pair bonding is stronger. Men and women form partnerships where each protects the other's food. In societies that eat more raw food, those bonds are weaker. The pattern is striking enough that some researchers, including Wrangham, argue cooking may have been one of the evolutionary pressures that strengthened monogamous partnerships in humans. Not the only cause, but possibly one of them. It's still debated, but the correlation is there. Then there's language. Before cooked food, our ancestors needed enormous jaw muscles to process tough, fibrous plants and raw meat. Those muscles attached to a thick, bony ridge running along the top of the skull. You can see it in Homo habilis fossils. That ridge acted like a structural cage, limiting how much the skull could expand. When cooked food made massive jaws unnecessary, the muscles shrank. The ridge disappeared. The skull could grow outward, but smaller jaws did something else. They changed the geometry of the face. Flatter profiles, more room for a flexible tongue, a vocal tract capable of producing dozens of distinct sounds. You cannot produce the phonemes of modern language with a chimpanzee's anatomy. The shapes don't allow it. So while cooking didn't directly create language, some researchers argue it may have created the anatomical possibility for complex speech to later evolve. Cause and effect get blurry this far back, but the timeline matches. And then there's civilization itself. Every ancient city, Uruk, Memphis, Mohenjo-Daro, emerged only after humans mastered cooking grains, bread, rice, porridge. You cannot build a city on raw food. It spoils too fast. It's too bulky. It doesn't concentrate enough calories to transport and store. Cooked grains allowed surplus. Surplus allowed specialization. Specialization allowed cities. The entire structure of civilization rests on the ability to transform raw plants into shelf-stable calories. No cooking, no surplus. No surplus, no scribes, no priests, no architects, no specialists, no pyramids.
So why are humans the only animal that cooks? Because we're the only animal that stumbled into a feedback loop we couldn't escape. Here's how it works. You need a baseline level of intelligence to control fire and experiment with cooking. Cooked food gives you surplus energy. Surplus energy builds a bigger brain. A bigger brain cooks more effectively. More effective cooking provides more surplus, which builds an even bigger brain. It's a runaway process. Once it starts, it accelerates. Other animals see fire. Lightning causes wildfires constantly. Many species have encountered flames. but they never took the first step, controlling it. We did. And many scientists now believe we can never go back. There's a hypothesis in evolutionary biology called obligate cooking. The idea is that modern humans have evolved to be dependent on cooked food, not prefer it, require it. Studies of people on long-term raw food diets show dramatic weight loss even when eating unlimited quantities. Their bodies cannot extract sufficient energy. Women on strict raw diets often stop menstruating. Their bodies shut down reproduction because they can't afford the caloric cost. We're not just adapted to use cooking. We may have crossed a threshold where we need it to survive. Every cell in your body, every neural pathway in your brain, every system that keeps you alive, it's all calibrated for a diet that doesn't exist in nature. We didn't just discover fire, we became bound to it. There's something unsettling about being the only species that relies on technology to survive. Beavers build dams, but they'll live without them. Birds build nests, but they can sleep on a branch. Humans and fire? We've passed the point of no return. That massive brain you're using to understand this, the one burning 400 calories a day, only exists because an ancestor nearly 2 million years ago made a choice that seemed insignificant at the time. She picked up a piece of burned meat instead of walking away, and that single decision triggered a cascade that turned apes into astronauts. But it came with a cost. We traded our independence for power. We gave up the ability to survive in nature as we found it. In exchange, we gained the ability to reshape nature entirely. And now we can't go back. Every cooked meal you eat isn't just sustenance, it's a reminder. We're not the species that conquered fire, we're the species that made a deal with it. Fire gave us everything that makes us human. Our brains, our language, our cities, our technology. But it also made us the most fragile apex predator that has ever existed. Strip away our tools, our fire, our cooking, and we starve surrounded by food. We became the dominant species on Earth, but we also became the only one that can't survive without destroying what we eat first. Maybe that's not a triumph. Maybe it's a warning about what happens when a species becomes too dependent on a single innovation. We are fire, and fire cannot exist without constantly consuming. Perhaps that's the real answer to why we're the only animal that cooks. Because we're the only animal that had no choice but to become something nature never intended.